Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtotar Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtotar Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktabrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 5th day of June 2024 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we're in chapter 8, Attaining the Supreme, text 21 in the middle of page 364. Avyakto Akshara Ityuktas Avyakto Chara Ityuktas Tam Ahu Paramam Gatim Tamahu Paramam Gatim Yam Prapya Na Nivartante Yam Prapya Na Nivartante Tad Dhamma Paramam Mama Tad Dhamma Paramam Mama Avyakto Chara Ityuktas Tamahu Paramangatim Yam Prapya Na Nivartante Tad Dhamma Paramam Mama Avyakto Chara Ityuktas Tamahu Paramangatim Yam Prapya Na Nivartante Tadhamma Padamang Mama Avyakto Chara Ityuktas Tamahu Paramangatim Yam Prapya Na Nivartante Tadhamma Padamang Mama. Avyakto Chara Ityuktas Tamahu Padamangatim Yam Prapya Na Nivartante Tadhamma Padamang Mama. Anyone online?
Avyakto Chara Ityuktas
Avyakto Chara Ityuktas
Tamahu Paramam Gatim
Tamahu Padamam Gatim
Yam Prapyo Na Nivartante
Yam Prapya Na Nivartante
Tadhamma Paramam Gatim Tadhamma Paramam Mama
Tadhamma Padamam Mama. Okay. Word by words. Avyaktaha, unmanifested, aksharaha, infallible, iti, thus, uktaha, is said, tam, that, ahuhu, is known, padamam, the ultimate, gatim, destination. Yam, which, prapya, gaining, na, never, nivartante, come back. Tat, that, dhamma, abode, padamam, supreme, mama, my. Lord Krishna says, that which the Vedantists describe as unmanifest and infallible, that which is known as the supreme destination, that place from which, having attained it, one never returns, that is my supreme abode. Purport. The supreme abode of the personality of Godhead, Krishna, is described in the Brahma Samhita as Chintamani Dham, a place where all desires are fulfilled. The supreme abode of Lord Krishna, known as Goloka Vrindavan, is full of palaces made of touchstone. There are also trees, called desire trees, that supply any type of eatable upon demand. And there are cows, known as Surabhi cows, which supply a limitless supply of milk. In this abode, the Lord is served by hundreds of thousands of goddesses of fortune, Lakshmis, and he is called Govinda, the primal Lord and the cause of all causes. The Lord is accustomed to blow his flute, Venum Quanantam. His transcendental form is the most attractive in all the worlds. His eyes are like lotus petals, and the color of his body is like the color of clouds. He is so attractive that his beauty excels that of thousands of cupids. He wears saffron cloth, a garland around his neck, and a peacock feather in his hair. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna gives only a small hint of his personal abode, Goloka Vrindavan, which is the supermost planet in the spiritual kingdom. A vivid description is given in the Brahma Samhita. Vedic literature, Kathopanishad 1.3.11, states that there is nothing superior to the abode of the Supreme, Godhead, and that abode is the ultimate destination. Purusham napadam kinchit sa kashta na sa paragatihi. When one attains to it, he never returns to the material world. Krishna's supreme abode and Krishna himself are non-different, being of the same quality. On this earth, Vrindavan, 90 miles southeast of Delhi, is a replica of that supreme Goloka Vrindavan located in the spiritual sky. When Krishna descended to this earth, he sported on that particular tract of land known as Vrindavan in the district of Mathura, India. We are on page 365. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and to all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. So, Krishna is continuing to describe his supreme abode. The previous verse, Parastasmatu Bhavanyo, Vyakto Vyaktat Sanatana, he contrasted the spiritual world with the material world. The spiritual world is sometimes visible, sometimes not. So avyakta means it's not manifest or visible, and vyakta means it's visible. So here he's saying that in the previous verse 20, that there is another unmanifest nature which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifested and unmanifested matter. So this is like the day of Brahma. When he's awake, then it's manifested, and then when he sleeps, it all becomes unmanifest. We can merge into the body of Garbhodaksha Vishnu. And then out we come when he wakes up, only 300, it's 4 billion years later. Roughly 4 billion years later. So this is what we've been doing for who knows how long, But human life is a chance to get out of this relative world, the world which is constantly being changing, being destroyed, being generated, and along ourselves. We're a little, I just heard of a lecture today, we're little miniature universes. Krishna is the soul of the whole universe, and we're the soul of this little body, and we maintain it for a few years until it breaks down, and then we have to go to another one. So we should aspire to get away from this Bhavasagara, the ocean of change, the ocean of birth, old age, disease, and death, and then attain. Krishna is giving little hints here. As Prabhupada says, it's more detailed description in the Brahma Samhita and also, of course, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, other scriptures. So, but this is an interesting chapter because he gives a lot of information, and some of these verses are very much quoted, or parts of them. What is this world? Dukkaliyam shastratam. In this full phrase, Dukkaliyam means an abode of difficulties, of misery, of suffering. Yes, there are little intervals of happiness and pleasure and so forth, but the basic principle is one of suffering. Even if you're enjoying, there's always that understanding, oh boy, this is going to end. Then what am I going to do? And when you're suffering, it says, oh, how can I get out of this, right? So this is what the nature of this world is, especially in the Kali Yuga. So we're very fortunate. Actually, this particular Kali Yuga is worshipped, it says in the 11th canto. There's a verse there that describes the advent of Lord Chaitanya as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam Sango Pangasta Parshadam Yagya Sankirtana Praya Yajantihi Sumedasa. It mentions Sankirtan. So Krishna Varnam has different meanings. It can mean that this avatar belongs to the Varna, he belongs to the category of Krishna. He's not different from Krishna, he's Krishna himself. Or it means that he's always chanting those two syllables, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Because Varna means syllable also. And Tvisha Akrishnam, it's understood the Acharyas, that it means he's not blackish like the original Krishna. He's Akrishnam, that means he's golden, he's light complexion. Saanga upanga astra parshadam. So he comes not alone. Krishna never comes alone, but he comes with his limbs. Means his very close associates like Nityananda and Advaita, the Panchatattva, and later on Ramananda Roy Srup Damodar. And the upa-angas, those close associates, but not quite that close. There's many of them in the Adi Lila and his household life, and then much later, of course. So Sa-anga, upa-anga, and his astra. What is Lord Chaitanya's weapons? He's standing there on the altar, his hands are open. What's the weapons? Any guess? The holy name. The holy name. In previous ages, he would kill the demons. Looks like we're reading about Nrsingadev. With what weapons? Just his nails. They were very formidable weapons, right? But still, he's actually killing the demons, killing their bodies, of course, and he's benefiting them. Hiranyakashipu, this was, the backstory is that he's really a guard from Vaikuntha. Jai or Vijay. I think I mentioned he's Jai, And so he was cursed by the Kumaras. He and his associate Vijay were cursed by the Kumaras because they didn't let him into there's gates to get into the Vaikuntha, and they stopped them at the last gate because at that point the Kumaras were not really bhaktas. They were Brahmavadis. They weren't Mayavadis, but they were like Shukadev. They preferred to meditate on the Brahmajyoti, Well, you can't get into Vaikuntha like that. You have to be a devotee. So they became angry, very angry that they were stopped, and so they cursed these Jai and Vijay to go down into the material world. So they were then given the choice later on whether they could take 3 births as demons or 10 births as devotees or something. So they wanted to get back quicker, so they took the demon birth. And so what happens is then Vishnu or Narayan hears the commotion at the gate, so he walks nearby, and when the Kumaras smell the fragrance of the tulsi manjaris on his feet, mixed with the fragrance of his feet, they become devotees. They undergo a transformation then. And then they're so sorry, that these are devotees they curse, what are we going to do? So Vishnu was consoling them and said, don't worry, this is my plan. This whole idea where Krishna wants to fight sometimes, but he can't fight with anyone by Kunta because everyone's a devotee. So the devotees have to go into the material world and take on the guise of non-devotees so that Krishna can enjoy fighting. So there's 3 pairs of demons: Hiranyakashipu and his brother Hiranyaksha. So they shared the name Hiranya, what does the Hiranya word mean? Gold. So Hiranyaksha means he's always looking for gold. Aksha means eyes. He's always looking for gold and he's mining it and greedy. So it's said that he mined so much gold from the earth that it became unbalanced and fell into the dark ocean. And then Krishna had appear as Varaha, the transcendental boar. Why a boar? Because the boar has the big snout, the horn, that he can dig down at the bottom of the Garbhodak ocean, get the earth and lift it up. So he did that. He fought with Hiranyaksha and killed him. So his brother Hiranyakashipu was furious. Now he already hated Vishnu. Now he was his arch enemy. So he performed these severe austerities so that he could become God. He really wanted to become the Lord of the universe, which he did actually for a while. But then Prahlad was born, his son. Prahlad, who was really a devotee. He'd been taught in the womb by Narada Muni, so no one knew that he was a devotee at first, So we've just been reading how, eventually Prahlad was not afraid of his father, amazingly, because he was such an advanced, he's the emblem of remembrance, of being completely absorbed in thought of Krishna and feeling completely protected. Even though he was attacked by his father personally, but earlier by his father's henchmen, he was unafraid, and he passed all the tests. So Hiranyakashipu was killed by Nrsingadev, and that's the first pair, and then the second pair was Ravana and his brother Kumbhakarna. There's a whole story of Kumbhakarna I won't tell, but I think he was cursed to sleep most of the time. He was always sleeping, right? You remember that? Once every 6 months they could wake him up. But he's not so easy to wake up. Then they have to run, cattle over his body and everything. So when the battle's taking place, he's sleeping through it. So finally, we got to get Kumbhakarna. So they woke him up and he came out and he was killed. I think Lakshman killed him or something. Anyway, so then Ravana and Kumbhakarna, his brother, that's the second pair. And then in Krishna Lila, he's also appeared. The last pair was Shishupal and Dantabhakra. And of course, Shishupal is killed in the Rajasuya Saka very dramatically. And Dantabhakra was killed in the battle with Shalva. And Shalva had this airplane, and it's you read the Krishna book in Dwarka Lila. And one of his allies was this Dantabhakra, who was killed by Krishna in the battlefield. So then they were back free. You know, Jai and Vijay were back up there in the spiritual world. So anyway, Krishna is describing the spiritual world here. And previous verse, he's describing it by contrast with the material energy, which is manifest and unmanifest, manifest and unmanifest. That spiritual world is always manifest. And Yaksa Sarveshu Buddhishu Nashyatsu Navanashyasi is never destroyed. When this world is destroyed, that place is never destroyed. And in this verse, Avyakto Akshara Ityuktas Tamaho Paramam Gatim. So it's unmanifest. We can't see it with our present vision. But it's akshara, infallible, means nothing ever is destroyed there and comes down. Paramam Gatim, that is the supreme abode. One who goes there never comes back. Tad Dhamma Paramam Mama, that is my supreme Dhamma. You know, so we should be interested in it. Let's see if we can go there and end this seemingly endless round of change and threat. You know. I mean, how many ways is the present world we're in on a collision course with disaster, destruction, climate change, the geopolitical situation, which seems, you know, because I've been on this planet in this body for over 7 decades, and I'll never forget the Cuban Missile Crisis, where this is it. I was 14 years old. I'm watching the TV, you know, black and white TV, and every day we got closer. The Russians are coming, and they have the weapons and all the atom bombs. So it's terror. The whole world is terrified. And I always bring this up because we don't know how close we came. It's closer than we even thought. The Russians had these, you know, they had these ships coming toward Cuba, and they had some submarines also. And we had our ships there, and we had a sonar. We knew the submarines were there. So the submarines, one or more of the submarines had a nuclear-tipped torpedo on there that had them, you know. So the Americans wanted the submarines to come to the surface, you know. They didn't want to destroy them. That would start a war, you know. So they somehow got in touch with Moscow because they couldn't communicate. It wasn't like today, you know. There's no phone lines to the submarine. So they figured they'd tell Moscow they must have a way of communicating. So they tell them, look, we're going to send down these non-lethal depth charges to just scare them, you know, and let them know so they'll come to the surface. But of course, Moscow couldn't talk to them either. So the depth charges start coming down. And they think, oh, this is war. The war's on. They're trying to kill us, you know. So the guys, you know, you see the movies, two separate guys, they have the keys, you know. So they're all ready to go. But it just so happened, by Krishna's arrangement, that the admiral of the whole fleet was on that submarine. And he said, no, it's not, the war's not on. I would have known, you know, let's just surface. You know, surface, there's no war. That's how close we came. Then there's another incident. I forget the guy's name, but I was working in in Russia in one of the bunkers with radar to keep an eye, you know, whether the Americans are sending their missiles over, you know. So mostly nothing happens, you know. But then somehow on the screen he saw all of these things that seemed to be indications of missiles. So the idea is, as soon as he saw that, he's supposed to call the headquarters so that they can send their missiles over and start the war, you know. So he says, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense, you know. I mean, so he double-checked, and he waited, and it turned out to be a computer glitch. And he stopped World War III. That's how close we came. He was honored a few years ago. I think he's passed now, but they brought him over to the United States. Thank you for saving the world, you know. But to be in a situation where everything is like that's so crazy, you know. But it's just the same thing now, you know. It's all... So... where is there any safety? There's no safety here. You know, I don't care how much money you have. It's just not possible. And you got the climate change and everything going on, you know, and threatening more pandemics. So the only logical thing to do is to inquire, is there another, is it, I've heard rumors that there's a kingdom of God, let me check it out. So you come in touch with Prabhupada's books, and sure enough, we don't belong here anyway. And there has always been periodic destructions anyway, forget about wars, just the nature of time, So it makes sense to inquire about this particular Dham, where you don't return, where there's no danger, where it's beyond fear and it's eternal life. And we find that there are whole communities, whole paramparas of great Paramahamsas, realized souls, who have seen it and live in it, on these two planes I've been talking about, and can speak with authority and verify that the Shastra is correct, And so that's what we're doing. We're trying to solve the problems, and as much as possible to help everyone solve them. If everyone starts chanting Hare Krishna, that'll be the end of all the problems. So we try to do that. All right, let's go on. Text 22. Purushak saparaparta bhaktya labhyas tvananyaya yasyantak stani bhutani yena sarvamidam tatam. Now this is one of these, I always saw this is very interesting, where Krishna goes into the third person. He doesn't say I here, he says the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as if he's, now just a guru, not the Supreme Person. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is greater than all, is attainable by unalloyed devotion. Although he is present in his abode, he is all-pervading, and everything is situated within him. Purport. It is here clearly stated that the supreme destination from which there is no return is the abode of Krishna, the Supreme Person. The Brahma Samhita describes this supreme abode as Ananda Chinmaya Rasa, a place where everything is full of spiritual bliss. All the variegatedness manifest there is of the quality of spiritual bliss. Nothing there is material. That variegatedness is the spiritual expansion of the Supreme Godhead Himself. The spiritual or superior energy described in the 7th chapter is also manifest there. As far as the material world is concerned, although the Lord is always in His supreme abode, He is nonetheless all-pervading by His material energy. So by His spiritual and material energies, He is present everywhere, both in the material and in the spiritual universes. Yasyantak stani means that everything is sustained within Him, whether within either His spiritual or material energy. The Lord is all-pervading by these two energies. To enter Krishna's supreme abode, or the innumerable Vaikuntha planets, is possible only by bhakti, devotional service, as clearly indicated here by the word bhaktya. No other process can help one attain that supreme abode. The Vedas, Gopal Tapani Upanishad 121, also describes the supreme abode and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Eko Vashi Sarvaga Krishnaha. In that abode there is only one Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose name is Krishna. He is the supreme merciful deity, and although situated there as one, He has expanded Himself into millions and millions of plenary expansions. The Vedas compare the Lord to a tree standing still, yet bearing many varieties of fruits, flowers, and changing leaves. The plenary expansions of the Lord who preside over the Vaikuntha planets are four-armed, and they are known by a variety of names: Purushottama, Trivikrama, Keshava, Madhava, Aniruddha, Rishikesha, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Sridhar, Vasudev, Damodar, Janardhan, Narayan, Vamana, Padmanabha, etc. The Brahma Samhita 537 confirms that although the Lord is always in the supreme abode, Goloka Vrindavan, He is all-pervading, so that everything is going on nicely. Goloka eva navasatya kilatma bhutaha, as stated in the Vedas, Shvetasvara Upanishad 6.8. Parasya Shakti Vividhaiva Shuyate Swabhaviki Jnana Bala Kriyacha. His energies are so expansive that they systematically conduct everything in the cosmic manifestation without a flaw, although the Supreme Lord is far, far away. So, Prabhupada is giving us so much additional information here on the spiritual abode, and what does it take to really become attracted? If you just hear about it, it's certainly fascinating. The only defense of the material mind is to doubt. Oh yeah, there's stories. We know that there's nothing like that. I mean, it's come to the age of science, No. Science is a very imperfect way of really understanding reality, because the material mind is limited. This ascending process it's called the ascending process of knowledge. Trying to gather information, have a theory, test a hypothesis. Well, that looks like it's with the truth, but then you increase your ability to see, and with electron microscopes and now you have to tear everything up. Oh, now we see now that these atoms in there and the electrons, and that's not enough either. Then you go down deeper, and there's not just protons but also muons, and they keep. The material energy is like playing with them, You think you know what's going on, but then a whole new thing happens, and oh my God, you have to start all over. So you can never get to the end of it, because if you approach your quest, if you engage in your quest through the material means, it's by nature limited. The advantage of the descending process or receiving is that if you find that perfect source of knowledge, which is not trying to cheat you or deceive you for some, nefarious purpose, but is simply your best friend giving you information that can benefit you like nothing else, then you have an accurate means of gaining the knowledge. This is why there's choosing the pramana. Pramana means an evidence or a source which you trust to give you information about how to live, what to aspire for, and all these different things. And unless you have this purana of the Vedic literature and the Shastras, such as the Bhagavad Gita and other books that Prabhupada gave us, then you're at a loss, because you're relying on your own imperfect mind and senses to choose here and there, and inevitably you make mistakes and you get cheated. And if you're not hooked up to a true source of knowledge beyond the range of our material mind and senses, this is the key. That's where the reality is. Just like the soul, it's not obvious that we have a soul, and if you never come in touch with this philosophy, you just keep working on the fallacious idea that you're this body, and you identify with others who have a similar body, and it's complete ignorance. It can never be a solution to problems that way. But if you can actually understand that we're spiritual, and that we're just like every other spirit in the world and all human beings, then the whole duality, it becomes conquered. That's there in the previous and the end of the 7th chapter. You may remember, Yesham Dvandakatam Papam Jananam Punyakam, Icha Dvesha Samutena Dvandamohena Bharata Sarvabhutani Samohang Sargayanti Padantava. The duality of liking and hating, judging according to the reactions of your mind and senses. Ichadve samutena, that gives rise to this dvandva moha, the delusion of duality. This is good, this is bad, this is good, this is bad. Let me try to get the good, good meaning that which pleases me, and avoid the bad, but I can't because this person hates me, so let me make an alliance with this group over here, and we can fight these guys, and we'll get the... And goes on like that, life after life, But it's all illusory. Because you're talking in front of the material energy. Material energy is always changing. Your body is changing. You have to leave it. If you violate the laws of God, you'll get punished and lose the human form of life and have to wait thousands of years to get back up. It's just going on and on like that. You're trying to manipulate the material energy, which is under the control of the Supreme, and which is not. There's no way to find a happiness and security and peace for any length of time, eternity, in the material sphere, because it's always changing. If nothing else, you're around for the ultimate annihilation. Then what? Then you merge back into Mahavishnu, and you go into suspended animation for who knows how long. So let's end that. Let's try. It's worth trying, because so many great souls are testifying that it's real. So it's worth investigating ourselves and trying to engage in the process. And as Prabhupada sometimes said, even if it's not real, look at how blissful, we're just chanting Hare Krishna. they grew up in the West, and then they came to Krishna consciousness 2 or 3 years and all that, and you become more peaceful, and if you really take part in the process. Even on the material level, it's worth it. But it's much more than that, because it promises progress toward your eternal life of bliss and knowledge. So now comes the interesting part. I'm coming to the end of this chapter. And now, just as an introduction, Krishna is going to describe different times. I think we're on 23 now, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So different times that you can depart, and get liberation. But actually, we worked on this, and there's a little confusion here, because it's not that any person who happens to leave his body at a certain time that's mentioned here, we'll go back to Godhead. It's not that easy. You're talking about yogis, those who know Brahman, who leave their bodies at this time. Then they can go back, So anyway, we'll continue with this, and you'll see I may change a little bit of the text as we read it. Yatra kalitvanavrittam. I'm sorry. Yatra kalitvanavrittim. Avrittim chaiva yoginaha. Priyata yantitam kalam. Bhakshami bhadatarshaba. O best of the Bharats, I shall now explain to you the different times at which, passing away from this world, the yogi, not anyone, the yogi does or does not come back. Purport: the unalloyed devotees of the Supreme Lord, who are totally surrendered souls, do not care when they leave their bodies or by what method. They leave everything in Krishna's hands, and therefore easily and happily return to Godhead. Actually, that soul was originally a very. Because now it sounds like thus, but it's not thus. They leave everything in Krishna's hands and very easily and happily return to Godhead. But that's what Prabhupada said. But those who are not unalloyed devotees, and who depend instead on such methods of spiritual realization as karma yoga, jnana yoga, and hatha yoga, must leave the body at a suitable time in order to be sure that they will not return to the world of birth and death. If the yogi is perfect, he can select the time and situation for leaving this material world. But if he's not so expert, his success depends on his accidentally passing away at a certain suitable time. The suitable times at which one passes away and does not come back are explained by the Lord in the next verse. According to Acharya Baladev Vidyabhushan, the Sanskrit word kala used herein refers to the presiding deity of time. Okay, so let's go through this, because it's kind of technical, and at the end, Krishna will say, well, it doesn't really matter. Agni Jyotir Ahak Shukla Shanmasa Uttarayanam Tattva Prayata Gachanti Brahma Vidojanaha. Those who know the Supreme Brahman, not everybody, but those who know the Supreme Brahman, attain that Supreme by passing away from the world during the influence of the fiery god in the light, at an auspicious moment of the day, during the fortnight of the waxing moon, or during the 6 months when the sun travels in the north. Purport: when fire, light, day, and the fortnight of the moon are mentioned, it is to be understood that over all of them there are various presiding deities who make arrangements for the passage of the soul. At the time of death, the mind carries one on the path to a new life. If one leaves the body at the time designated above, now you see here, Prabhupada's talking about one. It's not one, it's always a yogi. At the time of death, the mind carries the yogi on the path to a new life. If the yogi leaves the body at the time designated above, either accidentally or by arrangement, it is possible for him to attain the impersonal Brahma Jyoti. Mystics who are advanced in yoga practice can arrange the time and place to leave the body. Other mystics who are not so advanced have no control. If by accident they leave at an auspicious moment, then they will not return to the cycle of birth and death. But otherwise, there is every possibility that they will have to return. However, for the pure devotee in Krishna consciousness, there is no fear of returning, whether he leaves the body at an auspicious or inauspicious moment, by accident or arrangement. So the contrast is between the devotees and the advanced yogis, not the ordinary people. They can leave any time at all, and they're going to come back. Dumo ratris tata Krishna. Shanmasa dakshinahinam. Tatra chandramasang yotir. Yogi prapya nivartate. Okay. Uh-oh. The mystic who passes away from this world during the smoke, the night, the fortnight of the waning moon, or the 6 months, when the sun passes to the south, reaches the moon planet, but again comes back. Purport: in the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Kapila Muni mentions that those who are expert in fruitive activities and sacrificial methods on earth attain to the moon at death. These elevated souls live on the moon for about 10,000 years, by demigod calculations, and enjoy life by drinking soma ras. They eventually return to earth. This means that on the moon there are higher classes of living beings, though they may not be perceived by the gross senses. And I don't know what this means, the smoke. I don't know if we ever figured that out. But the whole point is, at the end of this chapter, it says, devotees, don't worry about it. They can leave any time as long as they remember Krishna. Shukla Krishna gati yete jagatak shashvate mate ekaya yatina vrittim anyaya vartate punaha. According to Vedic opinion, there are 2 ways of passing from this world, one in light, one in darkness. When the yogi passes in light, he does not come back. But when that yogi passes in darkness, he returns. Purport: the same description of departure and return is quoted by Acharya Baladev Vidyabhushan from the Chandogya Upanishad 5.10.3-5. Those who are fruitive laborers and philosophical speculators from time immemorial are constantly going and coming. Actually, they don't attain ultimate salvation, for they do not surrender to Krishna. Naite suti partajanam yogi muhyati kaschana tasmat sarveshu kaleshu yoga yukto bhavarjana. Although the devotees know these 2 paths, O Arjuna, they're never bewildered. In other words, they're never concerned about them. Therefore, be always fixed in devotion. Purport: Krishna is here advising Arjuna that he should not be disturbed by the different paths the soul can take when leaving the material world. A devotee of the Supreme Lord should not worry whether he will depart by arrangement or by accident. The devotee should be firmly established in Krishna consciousness and chant Hare Krishna. He should know that concern over either of these 2 paths is troublesome. The best way to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness is to be always dovetailed in his service, and this will make one's path to the spiritual kingdom safe, certain, and direct. The word yoga yukta is especially significant in this verse. One who is firm in yoga is constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness in all his activities. Sri Rupa Goswami advises, Anasaktasya vishayanyatarham upayunjataha. One should be unattached in material affairs and do everything in Krishna consciousness. By this system, which is called Yukta Vairagya, one attains perfection. Therefore, the devotee is not disturbed by these descriptions because he knows that his passage to the supreme abode is guaranteed by devotional service. And then the final verse of the chapter. Vedeshu yogyeshu tapaksu chaiva daneshu yat punya palam pradishtam atyeti tat savam idam viditva yogi param sthanam upayati chadyam. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all these, and at the end, he reaches the supreme, eternal abode. Purport. This verse is the summation of the 7th and 8th chapters, which particularly deal with Krishna consciousness and devotional service. One has to study the Vedas under the guidance of the spiritual master and undergo many austerities and penances while living under his care. A brahmachari has to live in the home of the spiritual master just like a servant, and he must beg alms from door to door and bring them to the spiritual master. He takes food only under the master's order, and if the master neglects to call the student for food that day, the student fasts. These are some of the Vedic principles for observing brahmacharya. One second. After the student studies the Vedas under the master for some time, at least from age 5 to 20, he becomes a man of perfect character. Study of the Vedas is not meant for the recreation of armchair speculators, but for the formation of character. After this training, the brahmachari is allowed to enter into household life and marry. When he is a householder, he has to perform many sacrifices so that he may achieve further enlightenment. He must also give charity according to the country, time, and candidate, discriminating among charity in goodness, in passion, and in ignorance, as described in the Bhagavad Gita. Then, after retiring from household life, upon accepting the order of vanaprastha, he undergoes severe penances, living in forests, dressing with tree bark, not shaving, etc. By carrying out the orders of brahmacharya, household life, vanaprastha, and finally sannyas, one becomes elevated in the perfectional stage of life. Some are then elevated to the heavenly kingdoms, and when they become even more advanced, they are liberated in the spiritual sky, either in the impersonal Brahma Jyoti or in the Vaikuntha planets or by Krishna Loka. This is the path outlined by Vedic literatures. The beauty of Krishna consciousness, however, is that by one stroke, by engaging in devotional service, one can surpass all the rituals of the different orders of life. The words idam viditva indicate that one should understand the instructions given by Sri Krishna in this chapter and the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. One should try to understand these chapters not by scholarship or mental speculation, but by hearing them in the association with devotees. Chapters 7 through 12 are the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. The first 6 and the last 6 chapters are like coverings for the middle 6 chapters, which are especially protected by the Lord. If one is fortunate enough to understand the Bhagavad Gita, especially these middle 6 chapters, in the association of devotees, then his life at once becomes glorified beyond all penances, sacrifices, charities, speculations, etc., for one can achieve all the results of these activities simply by Krishna consciousness. One who has a little faith in the Bhagavad Gita should learn the Bhagavad Gita from a devotee, because in the beginning of the 4th chapter it is stated clearly that the Bhagavad Gita can be understood only by devotees. No one else can perfectly understand the purport of the Bhagavad Gita, not the purpose, the purport, the meaning. One should therefore learn the Bhagavad Gita from a devotee of Krishna, not from mental speculators. This is a sign of faith. When one searches for a devotee and fortunately gets a devotee's association, one actually begins to study and understand the Bhagavad Gita. By advancement in the association of the devotee, one is placed in devotional service, and this service dispels all one's misgivings about Krishna or God, and Krishna's activities, form, pastimes, name, and other features. After these misgivings have been perfectly cleared away, one becomes fixed in one's study. Then one relishes the study of the Bhagavad Gita and attains the state of feeling always Krishna conscious. In the advanced stage, one falls completely in love with Krishna. This highest perfectional stage of life enables the devotee to be transferred to Krishna's abode in the spiritual sky, Goloka Vrindavan, where the devotee becomes eternally happy. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 8th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of attaining the Supreme. So, that's a good place to stop. So we have a little time, I'll give you a few of my little poems. So, we have so much time, why not do the Shikshastika? It said in this, there's no 9th verse to the Shikshastika. The Shikshastika was not written as an Ashtaka. I think I've made this point before. But Lord Chaitanya wrote the verses at different times in different places, and they were collected in the Padyavali. Or actually, they appeared in a Padyavali, which are Rupa Goswami's favorite verses, in different places. And they were collected by Krishna's Kaviraj in the order we have them as the Ashtaka, known as Shikshastika. So there's no 9th verse, but Krishna's Kaviraj has given the 9th verse, which is the Palashruti, the benefits you get from chanting. These 8 essential verses Lord Chaitanya wrote to teach the practice and the goal of chanting Krishna's holy name. Day by day, whoever sings this hymn will surely reach a little closer to perfection, spotless Krishna prema. So let's start today. We'll all chant it every day. Or you can read my little poem. Cheto darpanamarjanam bhavamahada vagnini vapanam sheyakaida bachandrika patadanam vidyavadu jivanam anandam vadivardhanam padipadam purnamita swadanam savatmasnaparam param vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Oh, glory to the chanting of Sri Krishna's holy names, which easily extinguishes samsara's blazing flames by polishing the lust-encrusted mirror of the heart. That chanting is the waxing moon that knows the secret art of causing the white lotus of good fortune to unfurl its petals far and wide throughout this bleak and blighted world. Of transcendental knowledge which will take us to life's goal, the chanting of the name of Krishna is the life and soul. The ocean of ecstatic bliss floods far beyond its bounds wherever Krishna's merciful and mystic name resounds. Indeed, whenever Krishna's names are sung in congregation, at every step one tastes a joy that knows no limitation. So hear with great attention as I earnestly request, please chant in Krishna's holy name and be supremely blessed. The soothing nectar of the name will bathe your consciousness, bestow pure love for Krishna, and eradicate distress. Nam namakari bahudani jasarva shaktis tatrapitani amitak smaranena kalaha etadushita vakripa bhagavan mamapi durdaiva midra samihadaninanuragaha. Krishna, Govinda, and Keshava too, your names have no end, and in each of them you have invested your potencies, leaving none out. Whenever we want, we can chant them without the slightest restriction of time or of place. O Lord, who can fathom your infinite grace? But I am so wretched, devoid of all shame, that I haven't developed a taste for your name. Trinadapi sunichena, tarodapi sahishnuna, amanina manadena kirtaniyak sadaharihi. More humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree. To think all praise belongs to others, none belongs to me. Such qualities attract the Lord to bless one with the power to chant His name incessantly until the final hour. Nadanang nadanang nasundaring kapitam va jagadish kamaye mama janmani janmanishware babata bhaktidahari tukitvahi. Wealth and women, followers, the fruits of mundane piety, liberation from this world of limitless anxiety. For me, O Lord, these common goals have not the slightest worth. Let me serve you purely now and in each future birth. Ayanandatanu jikinkaram patitam mam vishame bhavambudo. And kripayatavapada pankajas tataduli sadusham vichintaya. Your servant for eternity, I lost my true identity and fell into this horrid sea of birth and death, O Lord. O Nanda's son, please hear my plea. By your sweet grace consider me a speck of dust upon your lotus feet forevermore. Nayanangaladashadaraya vadanangadgadadudhaya gira pulaka nichitang vapukada tavanama grahane bhavishyati. Tears streaming from my eyes, my voice choked with bliss, the hair upon my body standing up in happiness. When will all these signs of rapture decorate my limbs as I chant your holy name, the monarch of all hymns? And the last 2 verses are spoken completely in the mood of Srimati Radharani. Yugayatang name shena chakshusha pravishahitam shunyahitam jagat sarvam govinda vidahe name. Every moment drags on like 1,000,000 years or more. From the rain clouds of my eyes the tears in torrents pour. This whole creation is nothing but a vast and joyless void. O Govinda, by your absence I am being destroyed. Ashlishya paradatam vinashtamam adarshanan ma mahatang karotu bha itatata vavadadhatu lumpato mat prananatas tusahevana paraham. Let Madhava embrace this maid who's fallen at his feet, or let him trample me and my most ardent hopes defeat, by never giving me a chance to see him anywhere, thus shattering my heart and plunging me into despair. You see, he is a restless libertine and not a saint, so let him act in any way he likes without restraint. Yet though his cruel and crooked ways may cause me constant woe, Krishna is the only Lord my heart shall ever know. These 8 essential verses Lord Chaitanya wrote to teach the practice and the goal of chanting Krishna's holy name. Day by day, whoever sings this hymn will surely reach a little closer to perfection. Spotless Krishna Prem. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. So, on Monday we'll start the essential chapter 9, very important chapter. Yes. The essence of the essence. Most confidential knowledge. Do you think you'll be able to join us on Monday? Very good. What's your name, Prabhu? Jyotinder. Oh, you wrote me. I got an email from you. I thought you were far, far away. Now I know you're here. Okay.